Yeah, it is another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. The Windbags do China. I am currently in Shanghai, China. Got in last night. It is 11:30 in the morning on Thursday here. It is 9 o'clock at night in LA currently as we're recording.
Yes.
And I've made it alive so far.
Yeah, you haven't talked to many people. That's why I think you haven't had too many chances to put your foot in your mouth yet.
Well, I just want to say, in China, they have this regime where all of your internet is watched, everything you post is watched, social media is all watched. And so on that note, I just want to say I love China. I think the government in China is absolutely fantastic. I think the U.S. could learn a lot from China. And the dear leader here is someone I adore. I'm going to put his picture above my bed when I get home. I love China.
If you don't think the U.S. government is watching everything you do and say and post and shit, then you're out of it.
Yeah, at least the U.S. lies about it. They're like, no, we're totally not watching everything. And China's like, oh, we're watching you. So there's a thing where if you jaywalk on certain Chinese streets, they'll pop your picture up on the light post. There's a TV on the street light, and your picture will pop up, and it says yep, we caught you jaywalking, and they track that. So they'll know every time oh, RJ jaywalked 3 times in May of 2023, and they track that. So they're like,
wow,
they're on you. Yeah, imagine my buddy was telling me he came here for the Van Skate Pro thing last year. He worked the TV show for that, and he was saying how these skaters thought it was cool, so they would keep skating across the street just to keep their photo keep coming up. So they're gonna crank up 18 violations.
Got 172 violations. Oh God, that sounds awful.
But we're here. We're live. We're doing it. And because it's an away game for me, very away. This is the rare Soto built show. So you did the rundown. Pull the curtain back. Normally I do it just because my work is from home, so I'm in front of a computer more than Soto is. But the other way you can tell that it's a Soto show, very Derek Carr heavy. Mr. Once he leaves, I'm never going to talk about him. He puts together one show, and it's a ton of Derek Carr.
It is.
Which is fine by me.
No,
we can,
I agree with that. But here's the thing. We can both agree this is a very dead time, right? Where there's not a lot of news going on. I just looked at Twitter, and I looked at, anything where I get news about the Raiders, and a lot of this shit came up. It wasn't just me. It was TV shows that were doing it, stuff like that. So whenever they bring up Raiders,
you were forced into a corner, and you had to make it Derek Carr heavy. I get it.
It was a lot of stuff that was already out there. It was,
and this is after you did a live solo show about Aiden O'Connell getting number 4, Derek Carr's number. So there was even more Carr stuff.
It was not about O'Connell. It was about Carr. I'm sorry, other way. It wasn't about Carr. It was about O'Connell.
I get it. It's every single debate show. They're just we got nothing. Let's just go with is LeBron the GOAT? LeBron versus MJ. Let's just do that again. Let's do that again. And on those lines, question of the day. We'll post it down, pinned on top of the comment section. Curious what you guys think. Was 2022 more on Derek Carr or Josh McDaniels? And it's, win, loss, a lot of things. I generally think we should focus more on just kind of the passing game, right? Was the passing game on Carr, Josh McDaniels? I think that's probably the most intelligent way to go about this conversation. Was 2022 more on Derek Carr or Josh McDaniels? So, courtesy of NFL Network. What show is this from? Good Morning Football? Or
this was from Up and Adams. Kay Adams has her own show called Up and Adams.
Okay. So this is the stats for Derek Carr in 2021 versus 2022. His 2022 numbers are almost completely across the board his second worst numbers of his 9-year career. His rookie year was awful. He was a rookie. Team was terrible. Everything's bad about that team. Those numbers are going to be hard to beat basement-wise. But aside from his rookie year, this was statistically Derek Carr's worst season. He lost about 50 yards per game passing. His completion percentage dropped about 8%. His passer rating dropped about 8 points. And 2021 was his worst year of his last 3 years. His 2020 and 2019 were even better. He had like a 28-4 touchdown interception ratio one season. His completion percentage was better. His passer rating was better. So even as good as he was in 2021, he was even better. Before that, 2022 happens and everything falls down. Soto, you go first.
This is a very the reason I put it on there is it's a really good question, and it's a question that doesn't have an immediate answer. And the thing is will we find out who's really quote unquote fault it was after this season? I don't know. I don't know that you necessarily will get that answer, a clear answer anyway. I think if you're going in with kind of like a notion or kind of a way that you're leaning things, you can pull things that will kind of push you a little bit more towards that side. But I don't know that we're going to get a concrete answer because they're not together anymore. They're in different situations, and we don't really know.
It would take, I think the only way we can come to like a pretty firm answer to that question in just next season is if the numbers are giantly swayed one way. Like if Carr goes to New Orleans,
one's really
goes
really
to like the NFC Championship, has a career year. The passing game for the Raiders this season was even worse than last season. Like it would have to be extremes, or the other way, right? Derek Carr plays awful, right? Like it was even worse than last season in New Orleans, and then Jimmy G puts up record numbers. Like if there's massive extremes, then we can say like, okay, I think we know the answer to that. But if it's even remotely close, I think this is something that you'll get an answer to. Let's say Carr plays for the Saints for another like 7 years, which is very possible, right? Plays till he's 37 with the same franchise. Let's just assume. Then I think we can compare, right? His 9 years with the Raiders, his 7 years, and then specifically his year with Josh McDaniels. I think then we'll be able to answer that question. But I'm with you. It's really hard to be definitive in one season. I still stand. So there's no secret where we stand here on this. Like I think last season was more on Josh McDaniels. You think it was more on Derek Carr. We both agree that just them together doesn't work.
Honestly,
you don't know.
Dude, I don't know.
Because you were pretty adamant earlier.
No, I don't know. I don't know who it was like. What I do know is this: it wasn't a good marriage. It wasn't a good fit.
It's like when a couple has a couple friends, that the friends they're like married and they get divorced, and like your wife thinks it's his fault, you think it's her fault, but you both agree that they should get divorced. Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that's kind of like Raiders and Josh McDaniels with this.
Look, I've gone both ways on these guys, telling, hey, these are the reasons why it didn't work from Josh McDaniels' end. These are the reasons why it didn't work on Derek Carr's end. And again, let's say, for example, in a perfect world for everybody, Derek Carr plays well, more of like the 2020, 2019 Derek Carrs, right? And Jimmy G comes in here and he plays really well himself, and the offense gets better and the Raiders win more, right? They both do well. We can look at it and say, really, it wasn't anybody's fault. It just wasn't a connection. They didn't really connect on what needed to get done. It wasn't like this scheme is crap, this player is crap. It's just together it just didn't work. And partially it was because
other, but they weren't in like with each other.
Exactly. Yeah. I pass the note. Do you like me? Yes, no. And you get back to maybe. It's like, I don't know. But it could very well be that too. It could very well be like, you know what? His offense is sound. I mean, we had a couple of players that performed to all-pro levels last year offensively. We had a leading rusher, and we had Davante Adams make all-pro as well. So it wasn't like it was all bad. What you're looking at is how does it work as a team, and that's that it's so important. And the reason why the camera on games is so fixed on the quarterback and the head coach is because those are the most two important guys on your team. Yep. And if they're not in lockstep, it's just not going to work, regardless of how good one or the other is. If they're not together, if they're not on the same page, if they're not willing to give up of themselves to make it work, it's not going to work.
Well, I just try to look at numbers and I see like, all right, Derek Carr's production plummeted over when he was on a really good 3-4 year run. Why? And it's either Josh McDaniels, him and Josh McDaniels, or he just fell off. Like, it's still possible. It's still possible Derek Carr got old, fell off. Like, not likely, but we got to count on possibilities, right? And you look at Josh McDaniels as a head coach, not as an offensive coordinator under Belichick, but as a head coach, whether it's his quarterback or the quarterback he inherited, they've never performed. They've never performed well, right? So that's why I'm leaning on like, all right, I think it's Josh McDaniels just based on previous history.
Mm-hmm.
But because the sample size of what Josh McDaniels has done with quarterbacks is so small, we can still give some optimism that like, hey, maybe him and Jimmy G can do something this next season, because Lord knows they have to at this point. Like, for anyone saying the Raiders are rebuilding, like, get that out of your head. You don't sign Jimmy G for $33 million guaranteed because you're rebuilding. You don't. If we were rebuilding, we would have kept Jarrett Stidham and have him and Aiden O'Connell go at it, right? Mm-hmm. And then rebuild everything. We're not going to throw all this money at an over 30 quarterback with an injury history if it's not like, look, let's put things together now. So,
offensively, we should be a top 10 offense with the weapons that we have at our disposal. Yeah. And the coaching that we have offensively, we should be a top 10 offense. There's no reason why we wouldn't. Honestly, something that does give me a little bit of, a spark of optimism is the fact that our two most important people in the organization were not on the same page, and we still lost a ton of close games.
Sure.
If we have that buy-in with somebody, even if you feel like Jimmy Garoppolo isn't as talented, if you want to use that word talented, which doesn't matter. It's about production over talent, right? That's what matters, is how you produce. But if you think that Jimmy Garoppolo isn't as talented as Derek Carr was, if he buys in and he understands what the system and what the offense wants to do better, he can perform better, and that will allow the team to perform better. So that's kind of like what the optimism of any player, whether you're a staunch Carr backer, whether you hate Josh McDaniels or whatever. If you want the Raiders to be successful, that's what you're clinging to.
This is another reason too why it's so hard to make that to point the finger definitively after one season, unless it's really extreme, is because all those close games, right? It could have gone either way, and there were still positives coming out of it. But also, like, I feel like the team got worse player-wise, right? Like, I feel like just like on paper, pure athlete-wise, and we'll get to a really good example of this is the O-line, which we'll get to here shortly or towards the end of the show. But talent-wise, it went lower after a season with so many one-point games. It's just a jambalaya. Like, there's no like hard factor. It's like, look, the last season to this season, here's how we know we're gonna be better or worse. It's just like there's a million variables between last season and this season.
It's hard, man. It's hard because look, we can say with I think the most certainty that Davante Adams is going to be himself. Now, are his numbers going to be as good? Well, you need someone to throw you the ball, but your play yourself, your specific play is going to be at an all-pro level. We know that. Okay, fine. Where it starts to get sticky is, I think that Jacoby Myers is better than the guys that we had at the number 2 receiver last year. I think he's better. Hopefully, Hunter Renfrow comes back healthy, and he's more like the Hunter Renfrow of previous seasons, not last year. But we have to go off of that, right? What he gave us last year. Can he be better? Hopefully he can. The issues that we run into is stuff like tight end. Is Michael Mayer going to be better than Darren Waller? Well, when you ask that question, a lot of people are going to go to Darren Waller was a 100-catch guy. Whoa. Darren Waller hasn't been that in a couple of years. So for this offense to be better, Michael Mayer just have to be better than Darren Waller was last year.
Well, and just to be better, you just have to be healthy.
You have to be on the field. I think he's going to have better.
That's how low Darren Waller is from the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, I think that position with the Josh McDaniels Raiders, I think the tight end position is going to produce a hell of a lot more than it did last year. So you have a better number 2. Davante is going to be Davante, and a better tight end. You know, we're talking about the offensive line. You have Josh Jacobs with still a lot to prove. You know, franchise year, stuff like that. So I don't. It all comes down to that relationship between head coach and quarterback.
So that's the question of the day. Who do you blame? 2022 on Derek Carr, Josh McDaniels, pinned comment section.
Give me some scorched earth, please, guys.
What all y'all think?
Give me the what and the why, please.
If I know one thing about Raider Nation, they're very lukewarm about Derek Carr. No extreme opinions one way or the other. He's just kind of a guy. No one really has strong feelings about him one way or the other.
What and the why? Don't just give me the what.
Continuing on the quarterback heavy show, a lot of Derek Carr versus Jimmy G stuff. You found a stat on fourth quarter comebacks, and it's like most quarterback stats. It was designed just to give Tom Brady a giant hand job.
God damn, he's so much further ahead than everybody else.
But because it's a Raider podcast, we get actually quality stuff out of it. Derek Carr is known as like the comeback guy, right? He's leads the league in fourth quarter and overtime comebacks. He's done it so well. Obviously, a lot of practice because he's been behind in so many games, just how the Raiders have played the 9 seasons he was a Raider. So how does he compare to Jimmy Garoppolo? Jimmy Garoppolo, according to this metric, which we'll get to in a second, better than Derek Carr. 12 out of 24 fourth quarter comebacks against opponents. Derek Carr, 33 of 75. So Derek Carr not only has 3 times as many, been in a situation 3 times as often as Jimmy G. His percentage is about 6% low. Now, they're both really high up there. Jimmy G is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th on this list. Carr is 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18th on this list.
Take your shoes off. You got to.
All right. Start count.
Good thing it wasn't over 21.
18th on this list. And this is since what year?
1994.
1994, right? So since 1994, Derek Carr's the 18th best, Jimmy Garoppolo 8th best. So they're both pretty damn good. This is my issue, and you probably can't read it on the super fine print, but the way they came up with this number is they took any single time the quarterback has the ball at least once in the fourth quarter and overtime, and your team and his team was down or tied or down at least one score or tied in the fourth quarter and overtime. So I don't like the metric they used for this because like you could be down 13-14 going into the fourth quarter and then lose 38-35 and it would be a loss on this game-winning drive metric, right? So there's still some value here, but it's not a definitive stat, right? There is still
it's
a lot
good
of value.
talking point.
It's a good talking. It's basically how are you in the fourth quarter in a close game? Basically, that's more what this is. Like how are your fourth quarter stats in a close game? On this one. So the good news is Jimmy G's batting 500. If he's down or tied in the fourth quarter or overtime, he wins half the time. Again, the problem is he's always played with an amazing defense. So a whole quarter that's a lot of time to be like, put it on the quarterback. So
what I haven't looked at is this is something that is lost on a lot of people. How Jimmy G got to San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco was 0-6 when they traded for Jimmy G. And they ended up he didn't play the first couple weeks he was there. They started the season 0-8.
Yeah.
So how good was that defense? Because once he started playing the last half of the season, he went 5-3
mm-hmm.
with that same team that went 0-8.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like hit the pause button on that because you say, oh, well, it's because he had this great defenses that he won games. Well, he went to an 0-8 team and he ended up 5-3 with an 0-8 team without him. Also, until last season, the Niners couldn't win if Jimmy G wasn't playing. Before Brock Purdy, the Niners would not winning if Jimmy G wasn't the quarterback. So, that's kind of I want to put pause on that real quick because I want to check, and hopefully we'll have it for next time, what the defense would play, how they played, and what rank were they when they were 0-8 in that season.
There's no better, I think, stat guy than Jimmy G String. Like his win losses is through the roof great. When he's not in there, great. It's just everything else. It's like, you're right. Like everything you said about him was true. He had that 13, I think the one season he was totally healthy all season. They go 13-3, amazing year, right? And yet the Niners were like happy to let him go. They're like, you're out of here. And when Brock Purdy took over last season, they had almost identical stats. Mr. Irrelevant had almost exactly the same stats as Jimmy G with playing almost exactly the same amount of games last season. Almost exactly the same passing percentage, almost the exact same yards per attempt. Jimmy G had a little bit better touchdown interception ratio, and Brock Purdy had a better like taking sacks ratio, which isn't all that surprising, right? Yeah. Jimmy G got sacked 18 times, Brock Purdy got sacked 11. So it's like these numbers always make Jimmy G look great, but the Niners were just like so ready and easily let him go. So it's like the tangible versus intangibles are like so drastic with him.
Yeah, well, it's the intangibles because of this. You got Brock Purdy who comes in there and he plays like Jimmy G, right? He's within the offense, but he does maybe throw a little bit more on the outside than Jimmy G does. But he's mainly over the middle type of guy, up the seams type of guy. He's younger, doesn't have an injury history, and he's cheaper. So if you bring a guy in, look. I think this is more a question of Brock Purdy being that good than Jimmy G not being that good, because they want Brock Purdy over the guy they traded 3 first-round picks for, Trey Lance. So it's not like it's just any old guy off the street coming in here and taking Jimmy G's job. It's, hey, Jimmy G's older. He has an injury history. He's more expensive. We have this young kid who we're not paying shit to, right?
How bad does Trey Lance have to be when you're in like the most forgiving quarterback system in football? Jesus, and they gave up everything for Trey Lance, and he like can barely find the field. Like seriously, ask yourself, like, if you had to pick quarterback in the NFL right now, like 40, what are you, 44?
45.
45-year-old Juan Soto. They're like, all right, you have to play quarterback in the NFL right now. Which team? And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I want you to answer honestly. Which team would you play quarterback for?
I would probably play either for the Niners or for the Eagles.
I would say for sure Niners, because you don't have to. In the Eagles, you kind of have to run, and in Niners, it's just dump it off to your stars, right? Like if I had to play in any quarterback, like I'm saying with it, I think it's a no-brainer. Like you play with the Niners, and so I think, and that's the other part of this with Jimmy G's like uncanny, unbelievable numbers, win-loss rate, and stats. It's like it's the most forgiving place to be in the NFL if you're a quarterback.
It is definitely, but the thing is before, like I said, before Purdy, unless you're Trey Lance, but before Purdy, the other guys playing quarterback weren't winning. Now, does that mean like, okay, these were all backups and they weren't that good, and Jimmy G is that much better than those guys? It's very possible. It's very possible Brock Purdy is that good, and he's on par or in the same realm as a Jimmy G-esque kind of guy. We just haven't seen him because he's a rookie, and that's possible as well. But to say, well, he's in a very forgiving system, that's why he won a lot. When they didn't have him, they didn't win. So it's not that forgiving.
It's just the more and more stats you dig into a Jimmy G, the better and better he looks, right? Just even like these fourth quarter stats, the comeback stats, like that was Derek Carr's calling card, right? Like he's Mr. Comeback. Statistically, at least just in fourth quarter, Jimmy G's been better than him in that element, right? No. So it's like, the numbers keep adding, the stats just back up Jimmy G so hard. Everything around him, the intangibles, coaches not wanting him, moving on, like they'd rather have Mr. Irrelevant, like all these other things.
Injuries.
The injuries part.
Well, the main reason why I wanted to look at this is to inspire some type of hope here. There's a lot of people who are like, well, Jimmy G sucks this and that. Well, dude, he doesn't. Number one, let's just push that out of the realm of possibility. He's not a bad quarterback. He's a good quarterback. How good? We'll see when he's separated from, like you say, a very quarterback friendly organization. We'll
The
see.
friendliest system to be in as a quarterback.
Yeah, we're going to find out. But what we do know is if there's a gap between Derek Carr, our old quarterback, and Jimmy G, our new quarterback, it's not as big as people are trying to make it out to be. If we have a fourth quarter where we need to have a comeback, Jimmy G is very capable of leading that comeback. I'm not saying that he's going to do every single one, but he's capable of doing it because he's done it in the past. Yeah. He's led those types. Is it him flinging the ball, 60 yards down the field every single time like Derek Carr does? No, that's not his game. Is it him getting the ball on time, in rhythm, accurately to the guys, to the playmakers? That's his game. So I don't care how we do it as long as we do it, right? So that's kind of like what I want. Because, what's more impressive? The sheer number of times that Derek Carr has come back or the percentage of times when he was put in that position with Jimmy G? I think they're both equally as impressive. But in a vacuum, in this one season coming up, what I think we can agree on is if we're in the fourth quarter and we need to score, I think we're in good hands with Jimmy G. He's not going to get rattled.
I think the offense is in good hands, right? Because then you can in a lot of ways you can mimic the Niners with the Raiders, right? All pro running back, all pro wide receiver, all pro slot receiver, a lot of good run after the catch guys, a rookie tight end that has a ton of promise.
Did you see the picture of him walking next to guys at the Coliseum?
Who, Mayer?
God, he looked like a giant among kids.
At the Coliseum or Allegiant?
Yeah, at the Coliseum, they were walking out because they did that kind of like where the rookies put on their jerseys for the first time and took pictures. That was at the Coliseum.
Oh, was that the NFLPA thing?
Yeah.
The Raiders sent 4 guys?
Yeah. Oh, my God. Now, he looked like a giant, dude. A freaking giant. I'll see if I can find it for you.
He's a big boy. Another story, and we were going to have Rory on here this week, and he had to bail.
Punked out on us.
Whipped. Yeah, he's super whipped by his chick.
Big time.
Because this is his calling card. So it's official.
And that's
Tom
why
Brady,
I put it on here, just for Rory.
Right? Tom Brady is officially a Raider. ... As a minority owner. Paul Gutierrez tweeted out a couple days ago. We have come, via Mark Davis, Raiders owner. We have come to an agreement for Tom Brady to become a partner in the Raiders, and we have submitted it to the NFL for approval. We're excited for Tom to join the Raiders, and it's exciting because he will be just the 3rd player in NFL history of the National Football League to become an owner. I guess that's a big, exciting thing. And so Tom Brady, now in the silver and black, but as a suit instead of a jersey. What do you make of it?
Honestly, I'm interested to understand what the goal is for Mark Davis by doing this. Is he just trying to funnel Fox's money through Tom Brady into his pocket? Is he trying to get like a cash grab? Is he looking for Tom as more of like an ambassador worldwide because Tom Brady is a worldwide known name? I don't know. It'd just be interesting to see what the goal is for Tom Brady to be a minority. Now, when I say a minority, he's not a minority owner. He owns a minority stake. He's not a minority.
He's a gender fluid Asian woman. That's why he's a minority owner. No, he is there. So we see companies do this constantly, where they'll get a celebrity to be an owner of their company to attach his name to it. Right? Wiz Khalifa is a partial owner in the Professional Fighting League. Remember, the Dolphins got a bunch of things, Serena Williams and like other like celebrity owners to be a part of their franchises and companies. He's basically a mascot. I haven't seen the contract. I don't know the numbers. More of it will come out. I'm telling you right now, he is a mascot, and he has a financial stake in it. He'll make a couple bucks, but he is a mascot for because he's for the UFC as well. Tom Brady is like one of these. I think Marky Mark's one as well. There's a bunch of like celebrity owners who have equity in the company, and they'll show up Octagon side because one, you get to watch a sweet fight front row, and the more love you give to that company, the more money you get because you're a minority owner, right? That's all this is. Tom Brady is there as a mascot, and Mark Davis we know is a star fucker. Like Tom Brady is the most famous player in football. I think if you took the second and third most famous players in football, added them together, they're probably still not as popular as Tom Brady. Like who do you think would be the second and third most famous players in the NFL? Like Patrick Mahomes,
maybe Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, like you put those two together, popularity wise. I think not popularity because there's a lot of people who hate Tom Brady because he beat everybody in the Super Bowl.
Uh-huh.
But as far as just like famous meter,
name recognition,
a level of fame, recognition.
But when you have a worldwide ex-wife, supermodel,
yeah,
and your name gets out there, look, it's a smart business move. You can call Mark Davis a star fucker. I like to call him a moneymaker. This fool is just making money hand over fist. Having Tom Brady as part of your brand, I guess, to help lure in contacts that he has to maybe open doors that wouldn't be normally open because you're a freaking, freckled ginger with a bowl cut. It's a much nicer face to look at, right? To open doors that normally maybe won't be opened.
Mark Davis should get the same work done on his face that Tom Brady did, and just start looking like each other.
Exactly.
Did you ever see behind the
yes?
Where is
Liberace? Dude.
Yeah, it was so good.
They look just like him now.
But it was basically, if you haven't seen it, it's on HBO. It's great. It's like the story of Liberace and like his employee / fuckboy, and he made his employees start getting plastic surgery to look like Liberace. Like Liberace,
yeah, they all look like him now. Yeah,
like they always did it. It's like that'd be great.
That was a great movie, dude.
Is there on the field wise? Does Tom Brady in this role have any effect on the Raiders on the field? Like in this role, do you think he'll like go into the quarterback room and give a little advice? Do you think he'd go to Josh McDaniels and be like, look, I saw Jimmy throwing it like this. Maybe we should try like that. Do you think Tom Brady does any of that? Is there even a point? Is he going to help the team even 0.001% on the field?
I don't think he's brought in for any on the field stuff.
I don't think so.
That's the thing is I don't know, but I don't feel like this was a football move by Mark Davis. This was a Raiders business move by Mark Davis, and a very smart one. I mean, business-wise, how you feel about Tom Brady? That's why I wanted Rory on here because he was gonna freaking melt his laptop screaming.
I was gonna say, like, do you think the Patriots fans are like burning their Brady jerseys because he's a Raider now? Like, no.
Oh God,
no one. That would be awesome. If hey guys, if you've seen any tweets, videos, text messages from friends of Pats fans furious at Tom Brady for this role, please let me. I'm very curious. I really want to know. I'd be dying to know. Last thing on this is like, I wonder if Mark Davis realizes that bringing Tom Brady into the owner's box. What if he starts banging that Cirque du Soleil chick that Mark Davis brought? It's like, do you really? If you're a single guy, do you really want Tom Brady around? Do you really want a single and ready to mingle in retirement with time on his hands, Tom Brady in your owner's box?
When you got that stack, bro, when you got that cash, you got those Cirque du Soleil chicks on a freaking repeat, bro, dude. I think freaking Mark Davis might sit in the corner and get a little beat on just freaking watching Tommy and his technique.
I bet you Tom Brady's terrible in the sack because he's just so damn good looking. You know what I mean? Like he's
always trying to call audibles, bro. Like, listen, man.
I think he's just straight up I think when he has sex, he just like takes off his pants, sits in the chair, like goes on his phone looking at film while some chick just services him. Yeah. Like I don't think he puts in the work because he's never had to.
I don't want to think about Tom Brady fucking. Sorry.
So Tom Brady in an Eiffel Tower. Do you think that he's the front of the tower, the back of the tower? Mark Davis and Tom Brady in an Eiffel Tower. Who's in what position? Describe it in vivid detail, Soto. I want to hear what you think.
It's probably more of an Arc de Triomphe because like they're not the same height. You know what I'm saying? Like they can't reach up and you know what I'm saying? It's gonna be more of a type thing.
it's just gonna be so weird. Like, do you think he's gonna wear like a jersey, like a Raiders jersey in the?
No, he's not gonna wear a jersey. He'll wear a pin or something. He'll be dressed like in Raider gear, like a polo or whatever they wear to the games. But I don't think he's gonna wear a jersey. What if he wears the Garoppolo jersey, bro? What if he wears an Aiden O'Connell jersey?
What if it's just a number 4 and it's blank and you don't know which guy he's rooting for? If he's like, oh, this is for Carr.
It says Farva. That'd be the best thing ever if it said Farva on the back.
Dude, so we're going to start doing merch. A little sneak peek for you guys. We're going to start doing some merch when this next season rolls around. We're in the process of making sure it's like good stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I'm really debating what kind of Farva stuff we put. Do we just make it like a Raiders jersey and just have 4 in the Farva in the back?
Dude,
do we really drive it home and put Farva's face on the number 4 jersey? I'm wondering.
No, we should just make jerseys, like the shirt jerseys. It's a T-shirt, but it looks like a jersey.
That's what I'm saying.
And instead of the Raiders logo, we'll have our Windbags logo right here. And everything else will look just like a jersey. It'll have the number 4, and on the back, it'll say Farva. And that's it. It
should come with like a Farva mask too. Like it comes with one of those like popsicle stick masks on the thing.
Bro, you're eating into our profits now. Like how expensive you think those are going to be?
Well, you could put it. I mean, if you put it all together, you charge premium. You know what I mean? Like we'll do like a combo.
See, look at guys. I'm just trying to rake you over the coals. I'm just trying to get you good merch.
Tell me you wouldn't want a Farva costume for
I'm actually going to wear that for Halloween this year.
That'd be awesome. It'd be absolutely fantastic. So the NFL Power Index that ESPN puts out is just them doing their funky math, kind of predicting how this next season's going to go. Again, it's not gospel, but it's always kind of fun to look at. Well, I say fun because it inspires discussion, not fun because it makes the Raiders look good at all.
Oh God, it's all so bad.
They're predicting that their win-loss or the number of wins would be 7.6 to 9.3, 24th overall. Playoff probability, 21.4%, 28th overall. Win division probability, the odds of them winning the AFC West, 7%. That's 30th, third to last in the NFL. Make divisional round of the playoffs, 9%, 28th. Little better. Make conference championship, 2.9%, 27th. Little better. Make the Super Bowl, 1.1%, 27th. Win the Super Bowl, 0.4%. 27 overall rank. So according to the NFL Power Index, Raiders aren't looking too great next season.
Yeah.
Why would you put this negativity into our show, Soto?
Because last year that was the Seattle Seahawks.
You want the nerds? You want the nerds to hate on us?
There's always a team out there that is just left for dead. And there's always one team that comes out of nowhere. Last year was 2 teams. It was the Giants and it was Seattle that came out of nowhere to get to the playoffs.
So let's look back. So what was the similarity between those two? One, I feel like the NFC West was nowhere near as good as people thought, right? Everyone thought the AFC West and NFC West were just going to like destroy everybody. They're going to like crush everyone. That didn't happen, right? The AFC West did send 2 teams to the playoffs. NFC West, Rams completely imploded. Niners were good somehow. All this stuff, like it's also indicative. It's like, oh man, they really hate the Raiders. It's like, well, they hate the Raiders in the AFC West. I think people are a lot more optimistic about the Broncos this season. Obviously, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. Chargers are just shitting out Pro Bowlers at every position, right? Thank God Staley's there to drag them down for as long as possible.
Yeah, it's a lot of it. I think is their strength of schedule, man. All right, guys. Well, we told you that RJ is in China right now. So unfortunately, he dropped off. He couldn't finish. I don't know what happened. We're still recording though, and I'm going to finish the show out strong. So we're talking about the NFL Power Index. I think the biggest issue that we're running through right now is there's a lot of uncertainty on this team. We talked a little bit about the quarterback position. We talk about maybe people not having a lot of faith. And really, Josh McDaniels hasn't really inspired a lot of faith and hope by his record of how the Raiders are going to do this year. On top of that, you have one of the more brutal strengths of schedule. Yeah, that's going to get us really, it's going to give us a lot of questions. Right? I'm actually communicating with RJ right now. We're trying to get him back on, but I'm going to finish this show, and if we use this, great. And if he comes back on and we finish, that's okay too. So moving on. Bleacher Report had an article, and it had one move every NFL team needs to make. And all the areas of concern that we have. Questions at quarterback and also the whole quarterback room. You have a rookie, you have very old Brian Hoyer, and you have an oft-injured Jimmy G. You have a defensive line that has been devoid of any type of interior pass rush for quite some time. You have a linebacking crew that was already, not the best. We lost the most productive player off of that linebacking core, and we signed backups from other teams, and we drafted a guy in like the 6th round. Linebacking is an issue. Also, our secondary is just a jumble of a bunch of new people. So with all of those position groups that need to be fixed, need to be steadied, right? Bleacher Report chose the offensive line. Now, far be it from me to call somebody out for being lazy. I just think it's very easy to pick on the offensive line if you're like an outsider not really looking at the games. It's really easy to pick on our offensive line because they don't really have a lot of big names. The only really name out there is Colton Miller. And even then, he's not talked about, even though he probably is one of the best left tackles in the NFL. He's not really talked about a lot. So it's really easy to pick on this position group that, really wasn't that bad. They were middle of the pack in a lot of key statistical categories. Pressure rate, sack rate, time to throw. They were one of the best, I think, in time to throw. So I don't know. And they had a leading rusher in the NFL, right? So I don't know that necessarily it's an area that needs to be our biggest thing we need to do. I think we have a couple of places, a couple of levels on the defensive end that need to be shored up a little bit. But maybe it's because we really haven't done much in the draft. Now I know we signed a couple of undrafted free agents, but ultimately, I don't know, man. I don't really think that. I think it's a very easy narrative to put out there that, yeah, we need to get better on the offensive line because you can't really name anybody off of our offensive line aside from Colton Miller. But yeah, I just think we have a couple of areas of need. I think overall the defensive line is good. It's just the defense interior needs a little bit of work. I think overall our linebacking core and our secondary need a lot more work than our offensive line does. That's just me.
Poof! I'm back. Miracle of technology. I'm back. What are Windbags? Here we go. Boogie. I know most Raider fans have Kansas City as their most hated AFC West rival, but it's always been the stupid-ass Chargers for me because I live in SoCal. It's always a good day when we can make fun of or embarrass the Chargers. This is about Mark Davis with the new rule where NFL can flex Thursday night games. And Mark Davis said, and I'm paraphrasing, this is BS. Like, what if a bunch of Raider fans from LA and the 3 Charger fans that exist try to go to a game and it's all mixed up? Good. So anytime you can just kind of like sneak in a passive aggressive dig.
God, so good.
Well, and that's the thing is like, all right, who's the biggest rivalry? Like I always say Chiefs just because they keep fucking beating us and they're like in the middle of a dynasty. Because with the Chargers, we can always make fun of them because they have no fans. With the Broncos, we can always make fun of them because we sweep them every year. That's why to me it's the Chiefs.
It's been the Chiefs for me forever. It's been the Chiefs because the Chiefs, they've had short spells of not being good, but I don't know how often they've been really bad. They've been pretty good for a long time. And, they just have a stronger, more vocal fan base. And you want to go against the best. Most of the people in Southern California, especially in Los Angeles, who are, around our age and who are Charger fans, they just were too scared to be Raider fans when they were younger.
Jose Serna. So you did a live video, if you guys haven't seen it, about Aiden O'Connell wearing number 4, obviously Derek Carr's number the last 9 years. And there's a lot of comments like this, Soto, so I wanted to give you a platform to retort. Soto, you're the only one making it an issue. I haven't heard anybody talk about it. Nobody gives a fuck. Raider Nation for life. Come on. It's all about the Raiders. People are saying, it's no big deal. Why'd you make a whole live video about Aiden O'Connell wearing number 4? Your retort, Soto.
They're probably not on any type of social media or listen to a lot of stuff that's not like national, like ESPN and stuff. That's probably what they listen to. Because if you look at like the in-depth stuff, like the content creators, if you go on social media and follow Raiders content creators and Raiders, writers and anything like Raiders pages, this was all over the place. Yeah. So I guarantee you it wasn't me trying to invent stuff, because this came out Saturday and I let it rest to see if it was going to bubble up or not. And I didn't do this video until Sunday night. So I gave it more than 24 hours to kind of see if it was going to be a thing or if it was going to pass on. And it was a thing. We're on very different platforms, because I didn't see a lot. I saw here and there. I saw more outrage at the outrage, right? Like I saw more people. I saw very few people like generally upset that Aiden O'Connell was wearing 4. I saw 100 times that of people being mad at the people being mad. I saw a lot of both. It was pretty even. But so I thought it was a nothing. And when you did the live video, I'm like, this is stupid. But it did great numbers. Like that video you did on people being mad about it. A lot of people clicked that link. So I guess it's a big deal. It's all about the thumbnail. The scorched earth, like nuclear thumbnail. Right? You're so proud of that thumbnail, as you should be. It was great. So good. Steve Steele. Hey, shut up. The Broncos were Derek Carr's bitches. We'll lose to them now. So like I said, like the big, great thing we've been able to say, despite how, not a ton of amazing things have happened for the Raiders the last few seasons, but being able to sweep the Broncos, not once, not twice, but thrice in a row is beautiful. Like, constantly to talk shit to all the Broncos fans. How much was Carr? How much credit do you give Carr for sweeping the Broncos the last 3 seasons? How much percentage credit does he get? And do we risk losing to the Broncos now because he's gone? I think more so the issue is not Carr not being here. I think it's they have Sean Payton as their coach now, and it's going to 100% steady because they've had such a turmoil the last few years. Coaches, players, freaking, your boy Ruffle freaking took over and was doing everything the hell he wanted to do. Yeah, Ruffle. But it's if we lose, I hope we don't, because I hate them. But if we do lose, it's not going to be because Carr is gone. It's because they have an organizational steadying influence in Sean Payton there now. Hopefully it takes forever for that to happen. Please. We'll see. All right, that's it for this episode of the Autumn Windbags. The Windbags do Shanghai. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll still be able to kind of look at the outside world a little bit from my hole in Shanghai. So if anything comes up, we'll be able to get to it. But until then, knock on wood if you're with me. Hey, you made it to the end of our video. Great job. I know you want more. Go ahead and click the next video. And if you're feeling crazy, go ahead and subscribe.